excited today to have Terry, who I've gotten to know over the last year. And she has an extensive resume, but her, Terry, I'm going to maybe not dive into her, multiple page resume. She is a very seasoned business figure in the Mecklenburg Gaston community, I would say. Very well networked. And so this is what she shared with me, and I'll share with you. She spent 10 years with an organization titled BIG, B-I-G in Charlotte, that is still around, but it's dormant at this point. It's not active. She's currently involved with TechWorks, so I think you'll hear a little bit about that today. UNC Charlotte College of Computing and Informatics, and she's on the board here at the GBA. And in a nutshell, she went from being a CPA to an entrepreneur of a ice cream business to asset management to starting her very own nonprofit BIG to starting another nonprofit TechWorks. So, without further ado, turn it over to Terry.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate it. I'm like Dara said in the last one, who attended Dara's session? Or you y'all? Yeah. It's almost humbling to talk to everyone. I would learn as much from you as you would learn from me. So thank you for having me, Andrea, and all of you. So, it's sort of hard to say where I would start. I'm gonna at least follow on from Dara's presentation the last time, because I literally ditto her comments about follow your heart and be true to your faith. I mean, I really think at the end of the day, if you do those two things, you're gonna be okay. And I would add to that to really listen to your internal compass, what we call our gut. I have learned, I feel like I'm really old now, but I have learned it never steers you wrong, never. And when you don't listen to it, you usually go, yikes, I should have listened to my gut, right? Bishop, who I heard speak recently, he said, every decision in life you make will determine the character you have. And he said it's crafted little by little to become the person you are. So it really, it's sort of all about the choices we make in life and where that leads us. And, I put in my title that, I'm a career path of pivots. And I'm literally a career path of pivots. I truly am. I said, what's next? The only thing I haven't done is probably government and academia. So but I do have another pivot in the works. So I really do. I went, when I reflect on where I am in my life today and how I see the world today, that I feel like is so amassed in anxiety and fear. I am a fearless person. I really am. I mean, I don't know why. I think because my oldest aunt said, there's nothing to worry about in life. If you worry, that means you're not listening to God. God's gonna take care of you. So don't worry about anything and don't be afraid of anything. Take calculated risks. But so at a very young age, I was sort of taught that, and so, which is why I have this world of pivots, right? I mean, I'm pretty fearless to go do things, and I'd like for more. I'd love for a culture to embrace that more. I feel like we are so surrounded by fear, and it's just with the media and social media and everybody comes to you. So I think I go back to just listening to your internal compass and let that really drive you and not all the noise around. I've been one that when I see an opportunity, I tend not to look at too many obstacles that would prevent me from acting on that opportunity. Because I think that's what happens a lot of times. You have a great idea and you want to move forward, but most people are paralyzed because they think of all the reasons why this isn't going to work. And I tend not to do that. So I'm of more the opinion, I'm not going to be stupid, I hope, about things I do in my life for the most part. But I'll go dive in, and then if it doesn't work, okay, I failed, I learned, I pivoted, I moved on. It's not the end of the world. I always say if no one's dying, it's not the end of the world. You can pick up your feet and keep going. So, I mean, that's kind of how I've always embraced life. We teach at TechWorks, I think we're going to kick it off again in the fall, this growth entrepreneurial mindset. And it's literally training your brain over and over to learn to take on whatever you want to take on in life. So it's really literally growing your mindset. And that's the whole purpose of this program. It started at Kaufman Foundation, and then we've kind of modified it along the way. But you know, it's like Lily says, who helps me with the program, life owes you nothing, like nothing. And it's up to you to, you know, take control of your life and make your life, right? And don't be entitled to what maybe people should be giving you. So we teach a lot of that. You know, she said you, what did she say? This is what she always says too. She works with a lot of underserved kids. She always says, you can fix broke. You cannot fix a poverty mindset. And there's a very different mindset of the two of them. And so she really works with a lot of kids on that. I probably am blessed, I'm lucky in many ways with kind of the life I've had to have a lot of energy. I am a pretty high energy person, just naturally, and then I sleep really easily. Unlike everybody at my age, I sleep really well. And if I could sleep 12 hours every day, I would. Like, if I didn't have anything to do, I think I would sleep 12 hours every day. I'm just one of those people who sleeps. And I think that at this age, I say that's my superpower. I sleep. Because I think the world's also deprived of a lot of sleep. And I don't know if I could survive so many things that I've taken on in my life if I didn't sleep. And I will literally cancel meetings to sleep. Like, I value sleep so much. And I feel like if I didn't have that rest, maybe in some cases exhaustion would take over and I wouldn't be able to persevere. Like, I really believe that. The rest allows me to persevere when, if I hadn't rested, maybe exhaustion would have taken me down. So I value sleep probably more than food and water as a person. Now, it's easy to say. It's very, you know, how do I tell people to sleep, right? So you're either a good sleeper or you're not. So I just share that's a gift I have, I guess. And then, you know, this is an old adage. Everybody says it over and over and over, but I swear it's true. I think behind every, you know, successful person in life, there's always a mentor or mentors. And I'll bet all of you have, I just gather if you're here today, you probably have mentors in your life. I'm just assuming, because I think people like us who reach out and do things like this have mentors. And I feel like they're invaluable. That is what you need in life, because you can't talk to your spouse. And, you know, there's a lot, you can't talk to your coworkers, but you know, a mentor you can talk to. And I've always had male mentors. I don't think that was intentional, but my whole life I've had men as mentors. I just found them, liked them, and you know, they became my advisors. Except for one female, and that was Jeannie Faulkner. I don't know if any of y'all knew her. She was the publisher of the Charlotte Business Journal back in, well, I moved here in 2004 from San Francisco and met her. It was a bit of a culture shock for me coming from 11 years in San Francisco to Charlotte in 2004. And I learned that I needed to kind of bite my tongue a little bit, given the culture at the time. It wasn't wide open to say what you really wanted to say. So, and I had, moving to San Francisco and being embraced by an incredibly diverse community, as you can imagine, and working in that community, you know, it opened my world like I couldn't believe. Like, I had a whole different perspective on the world. So I come back to Charlotte with that perspective, and I learned at dinner parties and everywhere, okay, they're not quite ready for some of this stuff. So she took me under her wing and kind of guided me with what she called the Charlotte ways. And and it was so helpful. I mean, really, she was invaluable. And I have to say, when I first moved here, I don't know if this is true today. I would love it. And I say Charlotte meaning kind of the whole region. I don't know if y'all think this. My first observation was people here give first, and then others will help you succeed. But unless you demonstrate you're giving first to the community, they're not going to in turn help you succeed. Is that true today?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Y'all feel that about Gaston County? Mm-hmm. Well, I think it was so noticeable to me. Maybe because San Francisco and that area is greedy, right? It's, I think, an incredible thing to own and keep as a because I don't know if any other city is really like that. I lived in Atlanta, I lived in New York, I mean, yeah, I don't think there's any other city that has that in their DNA, which we really should own and keep and never lose, because I think that's invaluable. And I was amazed how many people genuinely want to help other companies and other people succeed. Like, they genuinely want to help you succeed. I was used to this backstabbing environment for 11 years, where, you're out, fight your own fight. So I think that was just a beauty. And Jeannie said to me, when she left the Journal, retired in Hendersonville, but she said, Terry, you take the crooked path to get to ultimately where you need to be. And I was like, well, that's probably well said. I tend to do that, I'll meander and then, oh, yeah, okay, here we go. I thought I'd share this with you guys, since y'all seem very like a supportive group of women. I think, this goes back to the story I'm gonna tell you. I think women today, I'm getting up there in years, I think women today are actually more capable than men to lead us forward. I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that. And I think we all need to come together and collaborate and support one another, but I think the world needs us. I mean, I really do. So it's funny, and it kind of just like maybe materialized based on this story. I went to the Inc. 500 conference. Y'all know Inc. magazine? Yeah. So they had the Inc. 500 conference. They celebrated the 500 fastest growing companies every year. Then it became the 5,000, ruined it. But they had, they really did. It was great. It was just 500. They have an annual conference. They had it in San Francisco in 2004. And, it was a small conference. There were like 200 of us in the room. And Peter Drucker, do y'all know the name Peter Drucker? He was a business author, a pretty renowned business author back then. Well, heck, I think he died a year or two later, so like even 20 years prior, he really started the talk about business management, wrote the books at Harvard and all that. So he was a leader, I'd say, in business management now 40 years ago. So he was a speaker in 2004. He asked all the women, there was 200 of us in the room, he asked the women in the room to stand up. There were at the most 20 of us, maybe not even 20 of the 200 were women in the room. And he told all the guys in the room, he said, you all look around. You pay attention to these women and you listen to these women. Because 20 years from now, you're gonna need these women. He said, women will start to lead us out of the problems we're gonna face 20 years from now. Like, he could see 20 years out and said, the only ones who are gonna lead us out of our troubles, and I see them coming, are gonna be women. So here we are, it's like 1 year, 2024 will be 20 years, and I don't think he's far off. I'm not sure we're as far along as he would like us to be, but I think he's dead on, and he said they're gonna have to collaborate, they're gonna have to support one another, but as a force, like the power of women can be really strong if they come together. And he felt like we had the attributes that men do not have to problem solve our way out of this world. So I feel like he was a visionary. Of course, all the guys probably went in one ear and out the other that day, I'm sure. But we were glad we were acknowledged for a minute. But it's sort of stuck in the back of my mind this whole time. And so, I'm a big, like as Andrea knows, I'm a big fan of supporting women, right? And supporting young gals. Instead of I'll go a little bit through my life or my career, but I was going to share with you why I think I am who I am today. I'm the oldest child. I came from a really smart, independent mother who ended up being a homemaker, but she should have been an attorney, the way she debates. God almighty, I kept saying when she was 60 years old, I said, go back, go to law school, it's never too late. And then she was the bottom of 11 children, had quite a few sisters, all really strong women, every single one of them So all my aunts were incredibly strong women, and my grandmother led the Gold Star Mothers for a number of years. They lived in Virginia, but she was in Washington, D.C. with that effort. So, you know, way back then when women didn't really work, I was just really surrounded with very strong women who all lived to be in their 90s. My mom's 90 now. So I think that influenced me, might have even kept me from, as you will hear, I didn't get married till later in life, but you know, it made me an independent woman. And then when I was 7 years old, my mother ended up in the hospital when she gave birth to my youngest brother, and she was there for 6 weeks, and I couldn't see her, she couldn't come home. So to a 7-year-old, you know, your mother goes in to give birth, you want to see this new little baby, and they're in the hospital for 6 weeks. To a 7-year-old's eternity, right? And I couldn't see her, so we'd go, my sister and I go spin cartwheels outside in the lawn, and she waved to us from the hospital room. But I remember she missed my 7th birthday because she was in the hospital, and I remember just being so distraught. And so a person at church told me to pray really hard for my mom and my little brother to come home. Well, bless Pat, after that Sunday, they come home like, I prayed that really hard that Sunday at church, and they come home like on Tuesday, right? They finally make it home. And so then I was like, wow, this prayer thing works. I mean, really, at a very young age, I just bought into prayer. At that point in my life, it was so, you know, real to me and visible to me to this day. And ever since, I've had a strong faith. I mean, it was literally that, it was the catalyst, and then ever since I've had a strong faith. And I feel like I have a very close, and many of you do too, I'm sure, have a very close relationship with God. You know, you talk to God, He's there all the time. And I really think it's absolutely my greatest security. Not my parents, not my husband, but God. You know, and so as long as He's there and in presence, whatever pickle I'm in, you know, I feel like He can get me out. And it's carried me a lot through life with that kind of mindset. I've also, I think, been willing to just go do things that without like knowing anyone, you know, just kind of leap out there. I don't, you know, we moved a lot when I was younger. I was always excited to move. My sister cried her head off. She didn't want to leave her friends, and I was like, okay, where are we going now? I went to Georgia from Pennsylvania, knew no one, had a great experience at the University of Georgia, loved it. When I was a CPA, I started at the KPMG. You know, I was one of 2 women in a class of 25, no female partners at the time. They want to groom you to be a female partner. And I was like, 3 years into it, I was like, I hate this work. And I really, it's a shame in a way, but maybe not really. You know, I got my CPA. I really hated the work, to be honest. And that's why I started this ice cream franchise. Never kept up this, what do they call it, CE credits, you know, to keep the CPA. I never did it. My parents to this day think I'm a fool to have gone through all that and not keep it up, but you know, I don't think I was gonna go back. So when I went to KPMG, this is how the ice cream thing started. When I went to KPMG, I had to drop off, back then we didn't have computers. I don't think we had computers. I turn in these time and expense reports every Sunday, and I stop at this little store called Steve's, and he had an ice cream business in Buckhead. And I talked to him every Sunday, dreading, you know, the week ahead. And I go, I really like your business. I said, you know, I think you should franchise this. And he goes, well, do you want to do that? I'm like, really? He says, yeah, let's go franchise it. So I was 25 years old. Wow. And so we franchised. And if I get my money, I'm trying to think, oh, well, banks, because I'm thinking, well, who lent me? You know, nowadays, banks don't lend you money. Sorry. But you know, it's really hard. It's so hard if you're 25 years old, never had a business, to go get a bank loan. I think not for this first store, because I took over a store, but when I opened up my store in Savannah, I swear, I think it was a $250,000 loan from Bank South with my little spreadsheet of numbers. 5-year loan, 14% interest rate, $13,000 monthly payment, 5 years. Wow. I sweated every freaking month of that. But I got it all paid off in 5 years. But, you know, yeah. Woo. But, yeah, so, I started in Buckhead. It was hard to get talent, moved to Savannah, opened up a manufacturing facility. So we did retail and wholesale. We wholesaled to restaurants and things like that. But that was the easy part. The retail was the hard part. And then we had a store in Athens, right, near the arches of the University of Georgia. And I did that about 7 years, which, consumes your life. You can't date, you can't do anything, right? You're running 3 stores, got rid of the one in Buckhead, but yeah, it was just like, wow, I thought, and of course I was I think I was one of 2 female business owners in Savannah at the time, literally. And I was like, and all the other girls, were married and having babies, and I'm sitting there running this freaking ice cream business. I'm like, I wake up at 32 and go, okay, what am I doing with my life? So I decided, okay, I gotta get out of this because it's just gonna drain me. It really is. So I got, and unfortunately I sold a lot of my assets in the business when I paid off the loan and decided I want to get out. I didn't want to renew a lease. The shopping center had gone to hell in a handbag. It was just me and one other person left in the center. So I didn't renew. I sold all these assets, which were really pretty valuable at the time, the trucks and the carts and the machines. All right, talk about a learning experience. This guy supplied me my chocolate for my ice cream the entire time I had the business. He was probably my biggest supplier. I sell all my assets, thinking this is the greatest guy, right? To this guy, he was in Florida. I go to California to start a new phase of life, find out he is an IRS alias, running from the IRS. He had told me his daughter had cancer way back when. Believe that? All of it was a lie. So the IRS told me, forget it, you'll never see a cent of that money. Because he gave me just a little bit up front, and he was gonna pay me, once I got out to California, he was gonna send me checks, right? Oh. So the IRS said, forget it, you are way down on that creditor list. He owes us a couple $100,000. Wow. Yeah, so wow, really? Somebody I worked with for 7 years? Thought his child had cancer. He lied through his teeth the entire time. I was like, but he did give me the chocolate, But yeah, I was like, well, darn it. Well, I learned, it was more of a handshake. I didn't do all the proper contracts, but I don't think about it. And the IRS said, don't beat yourself up. It still wouldn't matter because you're down at the bottom of the list. So that's when I thought, okay, I was out in California helping a company go public. It would be now the Adobe of the world. It was FrameMaker back then. So I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And so I worked the summer to help them. And I thought, okay, I really need to go make some serious money because now I have no money. And ended up, so again, like how did this happen? I ended up in, I have no experience in this, ended up in asset management, right? And I met the chair of the company, or the president, CEO, whatever, Fred Grauer. I was applying to Stanford Business School, so I thought, I have some good experience here. I ran a business, maybe I'll go get an MBA at Stanford. I was in the middle of that application, meet this guy. I have literally like a 6-hour interview with Fred Grauer. I swear I think I was in there 6 hours, and he just kept cutting, because he said, throw out that application, you come work for me. He said, your experience with what you've been through already in life is a lot more valuable than most people I've got in this company. And I'd never been I had a Macintosh back then, but I hadn't been on like a dumb terminal or whatever you call it, damn green screens at the time. And so he said, go learn it, you'll figure it out. And so he hired me. And so it was Wells Fargo Investment Advisors at the time that became Barclays Global Investors while I was still there. And now it's the BlackRock of the world that manages like $9 trillion. I'm shocked. We were pleased to hit $1 billion when I was there. Now they're at $9 trillion. Should have stayed. Seriously. But I'll tell you why I didn't. So, I was out there 11 years in that business, made good money, right, as you would in an asset management business in San Francisco. Single, enjoyed every bit of my life out there, the whole entire West Coast for that matter. I traveled everywhere while I was out there. But and then I moved to another asset management firm towards the end, and then .com crash hit at the time. And I was thinking, okay, this isn't gonna be a fun ride. It was already, I was like the gerbil, I was working 14-hour days, doing all that crap. And my mother came to visit not too long before it was right before the dot-com crash. And she said, you know, you've become a person I no longer know. Ooh, isn't that like gut-wrenching? Because, you know, I probably, you know, she's a Southern woman, you know, diehard Virginian Southern woman. And I think I had become this ball-busting West Coast career woman. I mean, yeah, if I could fess up, I think I really was. And, you know, I suffered no fools, you know, hire slow, fire fast. I mean, I was kind of known as the hatchet lady. Yeah, so I was driven. Is that the right word? Yeah, driven, like the money. You know, money was good. But then you start to feel like through that whole process, you lose your soul. So I was making a lot of money, but losing my soul. And I think my mother knew that. So that like just set in my head when she said that. And then the dot-com crash hit. And I'm like, okay, I need to get out of this business. Because then it's not going to be fun right now. Everybody's lost a bunch of money. So I decided, that was probably in March of 2001, I decided to quit and travel the world. I was going to take 2 years off and travel the world. And then, so that was in March, 9/11 hits, you know, the incident. I had an around the world ticket to go 2 weeks after 9/11 for a full year around the world. And right after that, I meet my now husband. So 2 weeks after 9/11, at a wedding, I meet my now husband, and I was also supposed to get on a plane and go around the world for a year. And I thought, wow, I wonder if I should do that. I mean, 9/11 had just happened, right? And so I was like, hey, that's not so smart. Thank goodness the airlines, it's like a $3,500 ticket or a $2,500 ticket that you can literally go, as long as you go in one direction, you know, a whole year of travel. They refunded the money. First of all, it was a female, single female, but they gave me full, because of 9/11, I think gave me the full refund. So I thought, okay, I just need to refigure out my travels. And then I had kind of met this guy I liked for the first time, and I didn't want to meet anybody, but shoot. So I kind of just, for 2 years, dated him long distance. He was in Charlotte, I was in San Francisco, and then, you know, sort of just went everywhere I wanted to go. I stayed more in the United States at the time. But I will say, and I went over to Europe, I went over to Asia. I think one of my first places, I went to Thailand, I went to Vietnam. I had a wake-up call right after 9/11, even though I didn't get on the plane and go around the world and not come back kind of thing. I thought, I'm gonna travel at the best time you could ever travel in this world. My heart told me that. Well, you know what? That was so true. I was a single female, no one was traveling. They loved America no matter where in the world you went. They felt sorry for us, right? They loved us. So I was embraced wherever I went. The dollar was strong everywhere I went. I had buying power just about, I don't know, any country I didn't have the upper hand with the dollar. All the hotels were free. All those hotels you can never get in because they're 2 and 3 night minimums, you have to book a year out. I could just walk right in. I mean, it was no lines. I mean, and no matter where I went in the world at that time was the best time to travel. And I knew that of course everybody thought I was crazy to go off on my own and travel, you know, because everybody was afraid to do anything. But it literally, if I look back on my life, it's the best damn thing I ever did. And it helped me, you know, to just go out, you know, on my own and travel the world, right, see the world. I will say, you know, I hate that life now, you know, we didn't even have, when I traveled, we didn't even have TSA set up, I don't think. Yeah, you didn't have to go through all that. So, you know, I do hate that it's so much harder now to travel. I feel like I had the freedom to really travel like I traveled, and to feel safe. You know, I don't, what I do today, what I did back then, I'm not so sure, right? So, yeah, so I learned a lot from that. I ended up getting married to my now husband who brought me to Charlotte, and I think it was kind of God at work, because as soon as we got married, I was 44 at the time, that was my first marriage. As soon as we got married, about 4 months later, my mother ended up kind of not well, And I have literally been on an elderly care journey for now almost 20 years. Spending many years at a Duke hospital with both of them. So I feel like God brought me to Charlotte to take care of my parents. I really, in my heart of hearts, believe that. I'm the only one here. My brother was in Seattle, my sister was in California, and there was nobody else. So I really, I think that was truly God at work. And when I moved here, of course I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know, you're taking 2 years off. You know, me and my pivots, I'm like, okay, now what do I do? You know, so I went and did interview like at Wachovia. Was it Wachovia? I guess it was Wachovia. And Bank of America. I interviewed some of those, thought, okay, maybe I go back to asset management. I literally, when I walk in those buildings for the interview, my stomach would be such a wreck. It would be such a wreck. I'm like, okay, God, you're telling me not to do that again. Yeah, it's clear that's not the path for me now. I left it for a reason, right? So I ended up, because I saw, again, you know, I'm one to look at opportunities, and if there seems to be a void and there's an opportunity, let's just go do it. That's kind of how I approach life, I think. So I realized there was no one in Charlotte supporting what I call a tech-based company, a high-growth company, a scalable company. When I looked around, there was nobody that understood like the Googles of the world. Back then it had been the Googles and the Apples. It's like nobody in Charlotte gets these guys and gets these companies and knows how to work with them and knows how to bring equity into the companies. So I started this organization big. That's how I started that nonprofit. I found 10 entrepreneurs, all with tech companies, individually, you know, somehow found them in Charlotte. They didn't know each other. I pulled them together for a breakfast meeting and said, I'll start an organization to support your kind of companies. If you guys will help me run this organization and fund this organization. So they each put $5,000 in to start the organization. And we ended up with probably about 100 companies in big at the time, just a virtual organization that really did support high growth companies. What we did well, we brought the first venture capital conference to Charlotte. And now there is an ecosystem there. It's still fragmented, it's still hard to get into. It's still, you know, Charlotte's tough, man. It's not the Bay Area by no means. I mean, that's, but it's trying, and it's come a long way since when I first started big. But one thing we did do that I think was valuable, I surveyed 113 of these, what I call scalable companies, pulled all their data together and created a report for like the head of Duke Energy, the head of Bank of America, and all these people to realize what all these companies individually do to contribute to the economy. And it was shocking. It was like the equivalent of Piedmont Natural Gas. I mean, we were at that level. You know, a couple billion in revenue, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of employees. And so I kept telling them, if you nurture that market, they're the ones that create the wealth. They're the ones that have these big exits. And a lot of those companies, like, wow, I mean, how many companies started with me that have had serious exits, you know, sold for a lot of money. Now that it's 20 years later, I mean, a lot of them, and a lot of wealth created. And so I was very passionate about that and teaching that and educating that to the region. And actually, because of that work is why Gaston County came over and recruited me to help with, this was in 2016, to help with technology, innovation, entrepreneurship here, right? As part of that alliance thing, the Alliance for Growth Plan. And I will be honest, you know, I had worked in the region with Big. So Big wasn't just Mecklenburg County, it was really all the surrounding counties, a lot in Huntersville, Mooresville, a little bit in Union, but I had never made it over to Gaston County. And in the 10 years I was doing Big, never, but you know what, that darn river. That river keeps you separated, oh my God. It really does. And so I was like, so when they approached me, I'm like, well, why have I never been to Gaston County? Like in my head, I'm thinking, why have I never been over here? And then, you know, like you guys probably are aware, you know, there was, I think it's still the case, I think it's better, but there wasn't the best perception of Gaston County. You know, the media does you guys no service. So it took me a while to entertain the idea. It took me a while, it probably took 6 months in total, to be honest, to really accept, quote unquote, their offer to come over here and do something. And what a blessing. That's all I gotta say. What a blessing. So I think the reason why I decided to go ahead and do it is because I was watching Charlotte's growth, a ton of growth, and I'm sitting here looking at a county that's lagging economically, thinking, oh my God, there's so much opportunity. Back to the opportunity. There's so much opportunity over here. I'm like, Lord, this place could really do some amazing things. You know what it took? It took me driving around in your county. I was like, I went from one little town to another little town to another little town. I'm like, this is Europe. These are little European villages. There's a great bike path that could actually go all the way around this county. And it was, I mean, honestly, I had Europe in my head the whole time I was driving through your county. And I thought, man, there's so, and then you're near the airport. You have the airport on your side. I'm like, oh my God, that's the greatest asset. So I started to pull all this together going, okay, we can do something here. And so that's when kind of TechWorks was birthed. They wanted me to do this county wanted me to do some damn incubator. And I'm like, we're not doing an incubator, holy cow. This place don't work, they're a thing of the past. So when I created my vision for TechWorks, I don't know who's been in my building, but when I created that, these guys couldn't understand me at all, right? The county literally had no idea what I was doing. And of course I'd speak these acronyms and they didn't understand, which was not good, I shouldn't do that. But I just kept telling them, just trust me, we will create jobs for your county, we're gonna create wealth for your county, so you know what it took to get them to, because I needed to raise money to do this building. But what it took to get them to hear me and to trust me when they didn't know really what I was saying and doing, was it started with Alan Fraley. I said, your grandkids are not coming back to this county if you don't let me do TechWorks. And so, I was like, how do I reach these guys? And so his grandson, Alan, the reason why I say Alan Fraley, well, his grandson happened to be there. He was at Chapel Hill at the time, happened to be in his house. I go, will you pull up my PowerPoint that I sent you, the slide of my renderings of what I want to do, and show it to your grandson? And so he did. And I'm on the phone with him, right? He pulls it up, he shows him, and his grandson, I heard his grandson say to Grandpa, I guess he called him Grandpa, you'd be an absolute fool if you don't support that lady. And literally, that was the trigger. And then I think Alan went around and talked to the rest of the commissioners. So the commissioners gave me $1 million. The state gave me $1 million, and then the city of Belmont gave me a couple $100,000 to do that upfit of the building that you guys now see. Because it took a lot, taking all the way to bare bones. It cost $1 million more than I thought it was going to cost. So it took some serious fundraising. But I learned a lot about. And then we raised some money from the foundations here, very generous foundations, Mr. Matthews and Gaston Community Foundation, the Glenn Foundation. I mean, honestly, that's when I thought, this is a special county. I could never do that in Mecklenburg all day long. Could never. 10 years of experience, they wouldn't have given me a damn dime, I guarantee. So honestly, when we raised all the money over here, people in Mecklenburg, how'd you do that? I go, because these are great people over here. And I genuinely believe that the people here are remarkable, and your family values are off the charts, right? I mean, you guys have family values like seen nowhere else in the region, in any of the counties. I mean, this is the best county for just good, solid values. I hope that stays, I really do, because I still live over in the Charlotte area. It's a blessing working in Belmont. I really hardly can say anything negative. I mean, it's just, and the county. I mean, everybody has been incredibly supportive and have enjoyed, every bit of it. And hopefully we will continue to grow, as a county. It's coming this way anyway. Can't you all feel it? I mean, everybody's, so, God bless the GBA. Pat's trying to do a visioning, downtown revitalization plan if we can raise the funding for it. But it would be nice to be deliberate about the growth and not just let it come. Because there's so much potential in this county for sure. And just so that y'all know, if you haven't been to TechWorks or know anything about TechWorks, this is like a 14,000 square foot building that's an entrepreneurial tech hub. And we have co-working. So we opened in April 2019. We're open about 10 months, COVID hit. We're lucky we're standing. I will just tell you that. Because 10 months of operations and COVID hits and you're shut down, you're like, God, wow, really? So, I think Jean Matthews, a few did give me some funding along the way to just keep us afloat, if I recall. But yeah, thank goodness we made it through COVID. But we have about a quarter of the buildings co-working with a lot of entrepreneurial companies. And I would say we always stay at capacity with that. I mean, we have a wait list for that matter. And then we have a large event space and some conference rooms we rent out. So if y'all want to do any parties or business stuff, we do everything in those rooms. And we have a K through 12 STEM program with robotics and coding. And then we do adult education, mostly for certification courses, because we have a Pearson VUE certification testing center. We're actually rolling out a PMP course here soon for project management. Maybe I'll have Andrea send it to the group, because it's a fantastic certification to get. We're only $1,500. I've got one of the top instructors in the world who happens to live in Charlotte teaching it. 98% success rate, people who go through her course that pass the PMP. And then you can, of course, test at our center with it too. So I'll get the word out. That's actually a very good certification. And then we have a media studio. So if y'all do any podcasting or videography, I have one of the best videographers in the country, I think, that has the space down there. So we do a little bit of everything. And at some point, Gaston County would like TechWorks to come this way, come into Gastonia. I looked seriously last year at a couple locations, including the Community Foundation, because they were arm twisting me. And and I, thank goodness they still like me, but I politely said no, because I was nervous. I'm nervous about the economy. I thought I don't want to bite off, I've got a wait list right now, but we'll have a wait list a year from now, right? And I am seeing a little slowdown, I will say. I'm glad I haven't expanded yet. I was going to tell you guys. So I work with, how are we on time?
Well, a few more minutes.
A few more minutes? So I asked, I'll finish with this. I work with these young kids, in their 20s mostly, 20 to 30. It's this group of young entrepreneurs, and some of them are working for companies too. I say mostly entrepreneurs, but some. So I've been working with them recently, well, not recently, ever since I had TechWorks, and I love being around the young. I don't have children. I love being around that age group. I love them a lot more than even our age group. They're just, I don't know, they energize me. They are really smart kids, right? I call them kids, but they are very, very smart. But I don't think they're well equipped for this thing we call life. I really, not being a parent, I don't see it firsthand, but I have concluded that after a couple of years here at TechWorks now. And so I've been working, I enjoy them, I love to hang with them. So I've been working with them a lot on that side of the equation. They're brilliant to go do what their skill set is. So, I've been really trying to mentor them with how you succeed in life. I mean, it sounds so silly for me to say that, but I think they really needed it. So I said, well, text me. So I could be their grandmother, right? I'm that old, not even a mother, but a grandmother. I'm like, what in the world do these young people listen to me? I mean, I really mean that. I'm like, I'm out the pasture as far as they're concerned, I thought. So I asked them why they value my mentorship. So this is what they said. They said, because you never know what you're really good at, right? Well, I don't think I really know what I'm good at, but they said your ability to build a network through genuine connections with people. That is one thing I do have, and if you ask anybody in Charlotte, I have a very large network, very, very large network. They said you're not transactional, LA. They said you ask people for their opinions, but you use your own critical thinking to sift through them to make decisions. I know, honestly, I mean, I'm so glad they texted this to me. Unfortunately, we have to text. But I'm like, okay. You're receptive to change and innovation, very malleable, and not stuck in a fixed mindset, which is, wow. Pretty good. That's because I jumped right into ChatGPT. Like, okay, you guys, show me how to use this thing. Active listening, and that's true. I do know I'm a very, very good listener, which makes you, I think, a good networker, and yeah. So I learned at a very young age to try to really listen hard. And then it says, you trust your gut instinct on people and business decisions. So back to my internal compass. I mean, I really do. We had a situation recently at TechWorks. I'm like, it's got to go. Yeah, I do. And then this other person said, you're genuine and have our best interests at heart all the time. And I feel that about me. I really try to have everybody's best interests at heart, no matter who I'm working with. Even if they're difficult, I want to have their best interests at heart. And I do establish long-lasting relationships. That's one thing I think I do. Yeah. So do y'all have any questions?
Comments?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
So the crooked path, I think that is just such a beautiful, I can almost envision, something artwork wise being created, like that. That just really resonated. And I appreciate you sharing that.
Well, thank you. You can thank Jeannie Faulkner. She came up with it. But I appreciate that. I should get a piece of artwork. Any other questions?
I'll just echo what you said too. I think it's really important to talk about your path not being a straight line, because personally, I've been out of, coming up 20 years, I've been out of high school, and I kind of always learned, like, go to college, this is your path, you follow this line, and I very much so not followed that and felt like I was failing, and I've learned now that that's what has given me so much knowledge is taking not the straight course. So I do think it's important that we continue to push that it's not a straight line.
I appreciate that. And I know your feelings, because, back to staying on the path, like my friends that ended up staying at BlackRock, they're gazillionaires. I'm sitting there going, maybe I just should have stayed there.
But are they happy?
So it's.
But are they happy?
Yes, yes.
Probably not as happy as me.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably in their heart of hearts, no. No, they slog, is that the word? They slog through the career path.
Yeah.
And their life is outside of the career path. So where they have to go travel, they have to go make fun outside of the 12 hours they're there.
Yeah.
And that's what I can't stand. Like, I can't be somewhere a good part of my day is something I hate. That's why I left CPA business.
So you can continue to be their friend and do it well, but still be happy.
Yeah, so I leverage their homes.
Yeah.
Okay, where's that home over in Italy?
Right.
You just hang with rich friends.
Right.
I like the fact that your faith has kept you fearless.
Yes.
That's what I gathered from being 7. I don't think you could be here talking to us if that didn't happen to you at 7. Your faith kept you fearless because you've done some incredible things. But if you're not afraid, I don't think that you could be who you are with that.
That's why I've never ever told that story ever, y'all. The 7-year-old story. And because when you get to this point in life, you go, why am I like I am? It's you finally reflect. And I thought that was such a turning point. So thank you for sharing. I mean, I really appreciate that. And maybe I'm blessed that I had that catalytic moment at that early age, right? Because it's formative. Yeah, so I appreciate that very much.
It blessed me, so I'm just.
Yeah, I really want people to be fearless. That's the goal of mine right now with women. I don't, men too, but we need to lead, y'all. So we need to be the fearless ones.
So I have a question though. When you were in the boardrooms, because there weren't many women represented in
Still
the
not.
boardrooms.
I mean, even the GBA.
Well, since you weren't afraid, were there times when you held back asking questions since you were in the room where people could have defined your career? Did you hold back asking a lot of questions that could have defined you going out and they're not letting you back in? Did you hold back?
I held back on talking in board meetings. I'm on that College of Computing and Informatics board at UNC Charlotte. I've been on that board since 2006. I think they keep me because I'm a female, because there's 25 board members, mostly male. I think they're literally in this day and age. I think we have 3 females and the rest are all males on that board. And they're at Bank of America and all over the place. And you know, I still, because I keep bringing in new board members, and I still feel at times hesitant to speak up because I'm not the CTO of Bank of America. And I shouldn't. I don't know, they're keeping me for a reason, but I swear it's just to meet their quota of a girl on a board. And so see what I just said, a girl? Because that's how you feel, a girl. Now, I will speak up if I'm really passionate about a topic, or like if there's something being discussed at a board meeting that really is important to me, like it really affects principles to me, and I will speak up. I will not keep my mouth shut if there's something that, but if it's just, you know, talking about a curriculum for, you know, whatever.
I think that is one of the best qualities women have. When we speak, it's something we care about in a room full of men. And in a room full of men, other men are speaking just to be heard so they don't lose their seat at the table. And maybe they don't have any value add. So I think that's important. And maybe we're looking at it differently because all the guys are speaking.
Because they want to be heard.
Because they feel like they need to be heard because they're wired differently than we are.
This Microsoft guy speaks all the time. And he's a nice guy, but God, he speaks it all and over, his opinion on everything. But I think he wants to be heard.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe that is our secret weapon.
Well, I think you're right. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, right. So I got to go to TechWorks, obviously, and I was meeting somebody there, and it's not the traditional office space, like you said. And meeting you, you're not the traditional person. So I get it now. It makes sense. So with you now being in Gaston County for what, 5 years?
So I started like the organization in 2016, but we opened in 2019. So
Okay.
I really went out and about probably till 2000. So that's what, 4 years.
Okay, so just from your standpoint, like what would you like to, business-wise, what would you like to see come to Gaston County? Because you're not traditional, and I love it.
No, and all right, so funny enough, I am working on, okay. Well, I'll tell you what I would love to see come, but I am working on my next pivot, and it's because of my intern. He's a Belmont Abbey intern, he's a rising senior, and he came to me with an idea, and I go, you've got to be kidding. There's no fucking way. And that's the most unsexy thing possible. And he goes, okay, so he went back and did some research, pulled together some data, came back to me. I'm like, okay, that's kind of some compelling data. It caught my attention. So in the last 2 months, he and I have been working on this thing, and it's the most unsexy thing you can have. No one would ever want to do this as a business. So I'll let you know in a few months, because I think we'll have everything pulled together by the end of August, and go see if we can kind of do this in the next few months, literally launch it, and you'll hear about it, and I'll come back and tell you. It would be economically good for Gaston County. This unsexy thing would be very good for Gaston County. I would probably make more money than I've ever made in my life with this unsexy thing. Thanks to that little intern. He's trying to find himself a job. I said, you can run this unsexy business. If we pull this off, when you graduate in June, you can run it. And he'd be great.
Wow.
And I'm dead serious. He would be awesome. I know. So, yeah. And again, and he saw it, but I saw it too. We started talking about it. It's an opportunity in the marketplace that's only going up, and no one is doing anything about it. So that's we gotta look for the voids. Look for the voids in the market. Like, what's going on, and who's not doing a damn thing about it? But what businesses would I like? I would love to get, and it's been so all the companies that TechWorks and the co-working, all Gaston County. So I thought, my network over in Charlotte, I pulled Charlotte people to my beautiful building. Not one Charlotte entrepreneur is willing to cross the river to come to Gaston County. I was so hurt. really, it's Belmont. It's not even Gastonia, it's Belmont. But, but nonetheless, they're all Gaston companies. I think to really build out a more innovative culture here, we need just a few serious tech entrepreneurs to come into this county. Because if I identified, I know if they really make it, and they'd be awesome for the region long term. You know, they could sell their company for $1 billion, right? It'd be a game changer. And so I'd like to recruit more of those. What I would like to start in the fall, thanks to Joe with this company Flex, he's a pretty tech savvy entrepreneur. We want to create a product development alliance, collective, whatever you want to call it. Because no one in the Charlotte region supports product development. No one. So that's one way to maybe kickstart a mindset over here around product development. And because you guys are more manufacturing and textile, honestly, why I love this county, you know why I love this county so much? It's entrepreneurial in their DNA. It's not corporate banking over in Mecklenburg. I mean, their mindset over here is very different. And I think you're willing to try stuff. So I think, and you're makers, like this is a maker community. So if we could launch a product development effort out of Gaston County, and I think even Pat's on board with this, with the GBA, I think it could be a game changer. Because to me, looking at working in the Bay Area, like the company I worked with, the asset manager, Google was a beta client to us. So, you know, when they started, we used Google before they even launched. Who else did we do? PayPal. I mean, so you saw the early stages of all those companies. It's all product development driven, and we don't have that mindset here. We're enterprise software driven. And I think that's what we need to kickstart really new ideas and solutions. And it doesn't have to be tech. It can be, you know, furniture, shoes. I mean, I think, and again, y'all know all the problems with overseas and supply chain, with everything. I mean, the more we can maybe start making back here in general is gonna be better overall. But I really think if there's a county that has the culture to nurture that, and if y'all wanna be part of my product development collaborative, collective, whatever we wanna call it, yeah, I'd be happy to have you on board. But that, you know, so I come from the entrepreneurial world, so that's where my head is. There's probably some really, I'll tell you what I see is all the international companies coming here into the business parks. I do see that. We have one in TechWorks, Premix, a Finnish company. There seems to be a lot of growth with that, but that's like, we need to be more diversified. Is that the word? So I'd love to see a much greater effort towards entrepreneurship. It's hard, you know, no one wants to support it, it's hard. Yeah.
Well, Terry, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think we all, if we went around the table, like you said, I have mentors. I know I have one.
Do you?
Several. We see women leading in government, in the boardroom to some degree, and, you know, nationwide. I think you know, I've been saying to my friends, it's the year of the woman. Because a lot of my friends are now finding their niche and they're stepping out to lead, and when they're asked to serve, they're stepping up to do that, and I think it's a beautiful thing. We have to support each other.
That's right.
And one of my mentors, her message is women lead other women. So that's what I like about this women's session, and that you're willing and, you know, you come in with confidence to share your story, because we also know people who are not comfortable sometimes doing that. But we need that. So we appreciate, you know, your fearless approach to life, and then, you know, saying it's okay. Don't take like such a straight path.
Yes, you'll have a more fulfilled life.
Yes.
Yeah, and I, you know, having grown up in the corporate world where women tended to be their worst enemy, have y'all like seen that?
Yeah.
We need to change
Yes.
that, right? Like, to your point, we need to now come together, support each other, collaborate, you know, not be in high school anymore.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so kudos to you for doing this thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have one more this year.
Who's your speaker, do you know?
She's at Rams Kitchen, her name is escaping me at this very moment.
She's from where?
Rams
Rams,
Kitchen.
Brandy
Thank you.
Meats.
Yes, Brandy Meats. So we'll conclude this year with Brandy Meats, who runs Rams Kitchen, and she'll share her story about how that all developed and came about. She does a really good job. It's about healthy eating, but it's also about supporting